Hey art friends, in this video we're going to draw a witch. I hope you're going to follow along with me. Let's get started. For this lesson I'm using Canson marker paper to draw and color on. That's because we're using our alcohol-based markers to draw with or color with. And we're also using our colored pencils. So I have white, a 70% gray, and a black colored pencil. The brand is Prismacolor, that's my favorite, but you can use whatever you have. I also have the 0 blending marker. CG1 is a light gray. 83 light purple, 82 is a darker purple. We'll use for the second layer on our witch's clothes to add the shadows. Then we're also using 97, this is the skin tone. We have 103 brown, this is for the broomstick. 100 for the broom bristles. 23 for some of the orange details on our witch's costume. And then 94 dark brown for her hair. I have my paper horizontal so that we have room for the broom. We're going to start by drawing our witch's head. We're going to draw it in the top, kind of left of center. And we'll just draw a circle. We're going to draw all of the basic shapes for our witch. It might be a little big, but that's okay. We'll keep going. We're going to draw her back coming down, diagonal. So we'll draw it coming down like this. And then we're going to draw her knees coming forward and then her legs coming back so that she's sitting on the broom. Then we're also going to draw the broom coming through. So we could start here, we could come through, maybe even turn my paper sideways. Sometimes that makes it a little easier to draw a straight line. You could also use a ruler if you want. Then right here, we'll draw the end of the broom. This is where the bristles will start. And we could draw the main shape of those bristles too. So I'm going to draw it coming like this, and then maybe another line connecting, and then we'll draw the bristles really coming out. Then at the end, we could draw kind of a curve to connect those two together. Okay, now we've got the main posture of our witch, and maybe she's sitting down. We could draw her sitting down a little bit closer to the broomstick, and then bend her knees more like that. Okay, and then we're gonna have her arms come down. We have her neck right here, and then we're going to draw her arms coming down, bending at the elbow, and then hanging onto the broomstick. We could also draw her other arm coming forward just slightly further, and then hanging on here, we could draw ovals for her hands. So we've got the shape there. Then let's draw her hat. We're going to draw a really big witch hat. We can draw it curving and down over her head, so we're going through that circle. Then we could draw the top of the hat, or the brim. There we go. And then let's draw the hat coming back, so it looks like it's going in the wind. And then we'll draw it curving and maybe even spiral right at the end. Now that we have the general posture of her body, let's start blocking in some of the shapes. Let's start with her head. I think the circle is a little too big. So we're going to draw her nose coming inside of the circle and then out. So we have her forehead and then her nose. And then we're going to draw a little diagonal line coming in for the bottom of her nose. Then we can draw her lips. Then we'll draw her chin coming in also and back out. And then we can draw the bottom of her chin or her jaw coming into her neck. Then we'll draw her neck right here. And then we can also draw her hair. She has some of the hair sticking in front of her face, her bangs, and then we can draw the hair coming down and then blowing in the wind, also just like her hat. Don't worry about making these lines look exactly like mine. Just have fun and maybe use my drawing as inspiration and not worry about making it look exactly the same. It's okay if they look different. Now we got some of these strands coming back here. Let's finish her hat. We're going to draw the other side of it coming up. We could draw little wrinkles in it and then curving around and spiraling into the point. Then we can also add that little buckle that goes around the witch's hat. And let's also make this look more 3D. So we got the front or the left side of the hat, Then we can draw it curving around and coming down further so you can see the back side or the other side of the hat. Then over her shoulders, let's give her a cape or a cloak. We're going to draw it S curving all the way back here. We could really make that as long as we want. And then we could draw it curving back in and over her shoulders. That's fun. Now let's draw her first arm and sleeve. We draw it coming down here, and her sleeve could be rolled up also. So this part is thicker, and then we could come back up to her armpit. And then we could do the same thing on the other arm. And then let's draw her forearm coming into her wrist and her hand. Then we could do the same thing over here. We'll draw the thumb in front. And then we could draw her fingers underneath. Let's make the broom thicker. So we're going to draw another side to the stick. I love on these more advanced lessons that we take time to really build up our drawings and just start with those main shapes. We could also add her body. We're going to draw her waist, her belly. We could draw her back coming down. And we could draw her sitting on the broomstick. We could also draw the dress coming back too. Her longer cloak. Maybe that's coming in the wind. Right here, coming up and curving around her knee. And then also the top of her leg, we're going to draw it curved instead of straight. So that first line that we drew, just to get the shape in there, or the position, was straight. We want to make sure that her thigh is curved. And then the stick comes through. We could add little wrinkles right here where her waist is bent. And then we could draw the other leg on the other side of the broomstick. So it looks more 3D. Oh, she's looking so cool. I think we just need to add her legs or her feet sticking out the bottom. And we could give her really cool witch shoes. Maybe they curve right here on the top of her foot, and then they have a little curl at the end. And then back in, and we could add some heels. And then we'll come into her dress. Yeah, those are some pretty big heels. Those are big witch shoes. You could change these. Maybe she has socks on too. Could add little socks. And let's add the other foot back here too. You can just barely see it. The other thing I like doing with a pencil is drawing through all of the shapes so that you can see the stick going all the way through. Even though we're going to color over this, I still like to draw through it so that we know this is where the bristles will be when it comes out the back. This is a good place to stop. We can put our pencil off to the side and let's pick out our markers and add the first layer of color. Again, I'm using my Art for Kids Hub markers. These are alcohol-based markers. If you have the same set, you can use the same colors, but don't worry, you can use a different brand and just pick similar colors. You can also color yours any way you want. You can change it and make it different. I'm using 97 for her skin, 23 orange for some of the details, 100 brown, this is for the bristles, 83 is going to be the main purple for all of her clothes, 94 is a darker brown, this could be her hair, and then also 103 for the stick. All right, this part will speed up, so remember to pause the video at the end. You can use my drawing as inspiration and just take that extra time to color in the first layer on your drawings. We have the first layer of color finished and it's dry. Now we're ready to add our second layer. We're gonna use darker colors to add the shading and to make it look more 3D and to add more contrast, which is darker darks and lighter lights. I'm using 82, this is a darker purple, and we're gonna work on the hat and also her clothes. Just by adding that darker purple, she looks a lot more 3D, and I love that there's more details and texture to her clothes. Now I'm gonna switch to my black colored pencil, and we're gonna add more details, like texture to her hair, also sharpen some of the edges of the shapes, like her hat and clothes. We can also use this to add shadows. Let's start by adding the different strands to her hair. We're gonna add texture lines that come in. This is adding the contrast to her hair because it's now, right now it's just kind of brown. We're gonna add some of the extra shadows and strands of hair. Now we got that texture in her hair, it looks really cool. And I've also added some shading underneath the hat. Now let's work on our hat more. We can sharpen up the edges of the hat with our colored pencil. I'm also gonna darken in some of the shadows, especially close to her forehead, where it's really dark, and then we can get lighter towards the front of her hat. Let's also add a little detail around the belt. We could give her that little buckle shape on her hat. And we can add little wrinkles and texture on this detail. I'm gonna darken it in so it's not as bright. Then let's sharpen the top of her hat too. You can even add little wrinkles. I'm really kind of going crazy with her hat. I'm darkening in the shadows so it's not as purple and more black. Then also one of my favorite things to use is the 0 marker. This has no pigment and we can use this to smooth out that pencil texture. Next, let's switch to our white colored pencil to add a brighter highlight on the front of her hat. So we're pretending that the moonlight is shining from the top left so that we can add this highlight right here on the brim and also going up the hat. And her hat is getting a little lost in her hair, so we could add a small highlight on the edge of the hat so that you can separate it from the hair. Next, I use CG1 to add a shadow on her face. You don't want to color in her whole face, just let a little light shine on her nose, also her chin. I also sharpened the edge of her face and added a little shadow under her nose and her lip. And that's a pretty simple way to add the extra contrast using the black and white color pencil. You can add the darker shadows and little highlights to make it look more 3D and to finish it. This next part we'll fast forward because we're just repeating that same step. We're gonna add that same texture and darker shadows to her cloak and also her body. Now we've got those darker shadows, we can use our white color pencil again to come in and add the highlights. Again, I'm using the CG1 light gray to add a little shadow on her arms, but I want to keep that top edge light. We're almost done. Let's just finish adding the details with our black color pencil on the broom. With the bristles, start light and add the texture in, and then you can keep building on top of it, also making the bottom of the bristles down here darker. So see how I'm adding more texture lines down here so that it looks more 3D. So we have shading by using the texture and layering more lines down here at the bottom. We did it. We finished drawing and coloring our witch. It turned out awesome. And I'm sure your drawings turned out really cool too, even though they look different than mine. The most important thing is to have fun and practice. You can pause the video right now to continue using my drawing as inspiration for yours. You could also finish your drawing by adding more things like clouds. Oh, even the moon in the background would be really cool. I love that this technique looks complicated when it's all finished, But when you're doing it one step at a time, it's a lot easier than it seems. You just start out with the basic colors for your first layer, and then you add contrast or darks and lights with your colored pencils. And I hope you had a lot of fun following along with me and drawing a witch. And we'll see you later, our friends. Goodbye.